This is Recipe for Sleep, a podcast where we dust off very old cookbooks and let them lull us into dreamland. I'm Erin Brindley, a chef and storyteller. Tonight, we're once again opening up the butter-stained pages of the American Pastry Cook from 1894, where Jessup Whitehead, who I've come to think of as a very knowledgeable and entertaining friend from the past, will beguile us with his thoughts and recipes on the subject of pies. As always with our friend Jessup, recipes are interspersed with the occasional random opinion or story, which can seem a little out of nowhere, like the story of the new night cook not knowing to sweeten pumpkin pies and ruining a hotel's booming pumpkin pie business. That's what I like about this book so much. I'll read to you about all kinds of pies and venture into ices, although they are too so expansive that we'll continue them with our next episode. But for now, it's time to put away anything you were doing and snuggle deep into your sweet covers. Softly close your eyes and imagine the kitchen of your mind. There are two cupboards there. Yesterday's cupboard, for all the things that have already happened that your mind wants to chew on. And tomorrow's cupboard, for all the things you're going to do or what's going to happen later. It's time to put everything away in those cupboards. Imagine closing each one. You made it to this cozy, quiet time of day where there's nothing to do but listen to me read old recipes to you until you drift off to sleep. Recipe 35. Lemon pie. Best hotel kind. 1 pound of white sugar. 5 lemons. 1 quart of water or milk. 2 ounces of cornstarch. 15 yolks of eggs or 8 whole eggs. 1 ounce of butter. Put the sugar in a saucepan. Grate in the lemon rinds, the yellow only, and squeeze in the juice without the bitter seeds. Pour in the water and set the saucepan on to boil. Mix the 2 tablespoonfuls of starch with a little cold water. Pour into the saucepan when the syrup is boiling and immediately take it off the fire. Then mix in the yolks, slightly beaten, and the butter. They are not to be cooked in it. Bake in pie pans lined with puff paste rolled out thin. Sift powdered sugar over the pies when done, or else meringue over with the whites of eggs and sugar. Can one advocate simplicity and short bills of fare and a few things well cooked, and then give 6 ways of making lemon pies and other things similar? Yes. Not for one person to make the same thing 6 ways, so much as for 6 persons to pick out the method that suits their particular circumstances and style of table they cook for. And as with pie mixtures, so with many other things in this book. For the cheapest covered lemon pie of the great bakeries, see number 263. 36. Clubhouse lemon pie. 20 ounces of sugar, 9 large lemons, 1.5 pints of rich cream, 18 yolks of eggs, 6 whites. Place the sugar in a large bowl and grate the lemon rinds into it using a tin grater, and then squeeze in the juice. Beat the yolks of eggs light and mix the cream with them. Pour this to the lemon and sugar, And just before filling the pie crusts with the mixture, whip the 6 whites to a froth and stir them in. No meringue needed for this rich acid kind. 37. Lemon pie, Southern. 2 pounds of sugar, 1 pint of water, 9 lemons, 2 ounces of butter, 12 eggs. Cut 3 of the lemons in thin slices and keep them to strew in the pies when filled. Grate the others into the sugar, squeeze in the juice, add water, make the mixture hot to draw the lemon flavor, then mix in the eggs well beaten. Let the lemon slices float in the pies. Bake and sift powdered sugar over when done. 38. Lemon butter pie or tart, richest. 1 pound of sugar, 5 lemons, 4 ounces of butter, 8 yolks of eggs, 1 whole egg. Make a boiling lemon syrup of the sugar, grated rinds, and the juice of the lemons, no water needed, and throw in the butter. When that is melted, stir in the eggs. Let simmer on the range about 10 minutes. Make the pies small, the paste rolled very thin, and bake dry. 39. Lemon butter, baker's way. Good for pies, jelly cakes, tarts, turnovers, etc. 5 or 6 lemons, 1 pound of sugar, 1 cupful of water, 2 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of flour, 6 eggs. Set the water on to boil with the grated lemon rinds and juice in it, and the butter. Mix flour and sugar together dry. Beat them in the boiling liquor, and add the eggs, and stir over the fire 10 minutes. 40. Lemon tarts without fruit. 9 ounces of bread or cracker crumbs. 1 quart of water. 1 pound of sugar. 1 rounded teaspoonful of tartaric acid. 2 tablespoonfuls of lemon extract. 5 eggs, or 10 yolks, for richer color. Mix all the ingredients together cold. The imitation of lemon mixture is very close, and the pie is better than the real that is sometimes made with green and bitter lemons. 41. Peach flan. Said to have been for a few years a specialty in the peach season at a large hotel at Put-in Bay, since burned down. Cover a shallow baking pan with bottom crust of good pie paste. Nearly cover that with quartered peaches, in the same style as baker's apple cake. Then fill up with custard, made the same as for custard pie, and bake slowly. Cut in squares when done, and serve instead of pudding. It is necessary to place the pan in the oven before filling, and add the custard by means of a long-handled dipper. When they are soft, ripe peaches, they need no previous cooking, but if hard, must be stewed first. It is not everyone that calls himself a pastry cook can turn out hotel pies artistically. And however much the casual reader who thinks of pie only as something to eat may be amused at the idea, that we assure him there are possibilities of taking high position among the other things of beauty on the wealthy table for the hotel pie, which do not exist for the private house pie or the baker's pie, or, if they do, are so remote it will take ages of domestic pie culture to bring them in sight. The experienced hotel steward knows now instantly when he has secured a fully developed hotel or fine steamboat pie maker. Your baker trained to work for the hungry pie eater rather than for the luxurious admirers of beautiful pies covers every pie with a top crust, which is the first sign. But the great sign of his standing is set up when he takes both hands and cuts off the pastry by pressing against the edge of the plate, whirling the pie around at the same time. Why should he make, or wish to make, fine leaf paste to press and mash in that way? But your first-class pastry cook, having made his paste so that the flakes will rise and open as distinct and separate as the leaves of a rose, and of a thinness more impalpable than that, no matter how rapidly he may work, will roll evenly, throw it on the pie pan lightly, shake it down to place with a little jar upon the table, take it up on the fingers of the left hand, and cut around with a sharp knife, not leaving the least sign of pressure, finger mark, or drag, or tear about it. These pies, though having all flake-piled edges, are pretty sure to be almost as dry and free from grease as flaky biscuits, and quite wholesome both to eat and see. If people say that hotel pies are not so, we reply that it is because the pastry art is somewhat difficult, and there are few masters of it. The beginners are slow to get a hold of the fine touches, and the hotels are full of half-taught beginners. We don't know anything about the private houses, and these remarks make no invidious reflections upon the household pie. With both bottom and top crust rolled thin and powdered sugar on top, it is good. But the hotel pie contemplates life from a different standpoint, and like all products of high art, it is somewhat aristocratic. Literature is cheap and common. You can buy a rare classic for 10 cents. The best thoughts of the best writers for a nickel. Imitations not to be detected of the rarest gems for $1 or $2. But the ideal hotel pie is only for the few. So careful and tender is the good workman of his leaf paste that he slants the knife outwards when cutting the paste, may be wide and make a broad edge, and that broad edge he notches with a sharp knife in the places where the pie is to be divided, lest with a rude pressure somebody will crush and spoil the flakes in cutting the pie after it is baked. Greatest country, tallest mountains, longest rivers, biggest pies. 43. Meringue for lemon pies. The secret of making the meringue, or frosting, stand tall and thick in the pies is in the baking. Whip the whites of the eggs to a froth that will not fall out of the bowl or pail when turned upside down. Put in about a tablespoonful of granulated sugar for each white. Stir very little, and spread it on the pies when they are just done and still baking hot without taking them out of the oven, and let them bake with the door open. If made hot enough to brown, the meringue will surely fall and become worse than nothing. 5 or 10 minutes is enough to bake the meringue dry and straw-colored. Sift granulated sugar on top of the meringue as soon as spread, before baking, to form a rich appearing crust for variety. 44. Coconut custard pie. Make a common plain custard of 1 quart of milk, 6 or 8 eggs, and 6 ounces of sugar. Then mix in 8 to 12 ounces of grated coconut. Bake in crusts. 45. Coconut pie, Hotel Ordinary. 1 quart of milk, 6 ounces of sugar, 2 ounces of cornstarch, 1 ounce of butter, 6 ounces of grated coconut, 6 eggs. Boil the milk. Mix the starch and sugar dry and stir them in and the butter and the coconut, and then take the mixture to the fire. Stir in the eggs after it has cooled a little. The eggs should be beaten quite light first. Sift powdered sugar over the pies before baking. For a coconut meringue pie, make the preceding mixture with 12 yolks of eggs, and take the whites to beat up for the meringue. Strew coconut on top before baking. 46. White coconut pie. The same mixture as the above, made very delicate and snow white by letting it become cold and then stirring in, instead of yolks, 12 or 14 whites of eggs, whipped to a froth, and a slight flavoring of rose and orange. Sift powdered sugar over when done. Good to fill in paste-lined patty pans for gem tarts very lightly baked. Good to use up white of eggs left over. 47. Orange pie. Generally made with the object of using up a surplus of perishable fruit. Peel half the number of oranges required. With a very sharp knife, slice them across the core, throw out the seeds, lay the slices over the bottom of paste-lined pans, alternately with the slices of unpeeled oranges. Strew sugar over, and pour over that a cooking spoonful of red wine. Bake slowly till the juice is become thick syrup. Coconut and lemon juice may be mixed with or strewn over the above. Orange pies can be made by the lemon pie receipts and with part lemons. 48. Orange butter pie. 8 ounces of sugar, 8 ounces of best fresh butter, 9 eggs, 2 oranges. Grate the rinds and squeeze the juice of the oranges into the sugar in a deep saucepan. Put in the butter and then the eggs lightly beaten. Set the mixture over the fire and stir till it becomes thick and ropey, like melted cheese. It may lessen the trouble and danger of burning on the bottom to set it in a large saucepan containing boiling water. When done, beat the mixture with an egg whisk a few minutes. The cooking of this mixture causes it to remain light and thick and rounded in the pies or tarts after baking, instead of falling and becoming waxy as it otherwise would do. Bake in a very slow oven or with a pan on the shelf above to ward off the heat. 49. Orange duriel filling, richest. Requires deep pans for baking as it flows over ordinary rims. 1 pound of sugar, 8 ounces of butter, 4 oranges, 10 eggs. Grate and squeeze the oranges into the sugar. Add the butter and eggs, and cook the mixture thick over the fire with constant stirring. Let it cool, and then beat it light before filling the crusts. And yet, some worthy hopefuls, having seen pie edges stand 2 inches high in distinct flakes while weighing next to nothing, will do their brave endeavors too, and lay the double edge on theirs, making a band of paste to replace on the rim of the plate first, washed with egg, and the proper pie crust laid on top. That is all wrong. We told them they could not make our hotel pies. For if the airiest crust that can be laid on a pie edge will hardly be eaten, is it not folly to double the weight and substance? Puff paste perfectly made will rise high enough from one layer, only from 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. If it will not, then it will not when doubled in thickness. And besides, how much valuable time is wasted from better work putting a useless double edge on the pies. 50. Apple cream pie, Marlborough pudding or pie. 1 pint of stewed apples, 8 ounces of sugar, 1 cupful of milk, 4 ounces of butter, 4 eggs, a little sherry wine and nutmeg. Mix all together. Bacon crusts. 51. Apple custard pie or pudding. 1 quart of dry stewed apples, 12 ounces of sugar, 8 ounces of butter, 8 yolks of eggs, juice and rind of 1 lemon and nutmeg. The apples should be stewed with as little water as possible, with the steam shut in. Mash them through a strainer. Cook the pulp over the fire with the sugar and butter in, and then add the beaten yolks and flavor. Bacon crusts. And where it is so requisite to have the fine flakes of puff paste lie straight and undisturbed, care must be taken in handling the small portions when rolling out pie crusts. Green people will always take the trimmings of the last pie and work and knead and pound and press it to death. You mustn't do that. Lay the scraps in layers in a pile loose on each other. Cut a chunk square and small from the large piece of paste and lay it on top of the scraps. Then roll out to a 1/4 inch thickness. Now you don't want the bottom crust of the pie to be so thick as that nobody wants to eat so much soggy undercrust, but you do want that thickness for the edge. So double the sheet of paste over on itself in half, and with the end of the rolling pin roll that part that will be the middle of the pie to half thickness. You will of course have flour enough about it to prevent sticking together. Then open out in the double sheet again, and you have a hollow, thin-bottomed sheet of paste just ready to fit the pie pan, and with a thick edge to hold in the custards and lemon mixtures. 52. Apple pies. 1. Pare the apples and slice them off the cores into a bright pan or brass kettle. To every pound, allow on an average a 1/4 pound of white sugar and a cupful of water. Throw in 6 cloves or some lemon peel for flavor. Shut with a tight lid and let stew slowly in the steam. Mash through a colander. Bake in open pies. Apples of poor quality that turn blue in cooking are often improved by the addition of the juice of a lemon. 2. Apples cored and quartered and stewed in a flavored syrup like preserves without breaking may be filled into shell pies or vol au vents baked separately, as explained further on. For every pound of the apple quarters, allow 6 ounces of sugar and 1/2 cup of water with cloves and lemon peel. Let the syrup boil first. Throw in the apple quarters and shut in the steam. Simmer 1/2 hour without stirring them. 3. Early green apples. Wash and steam them whole. Mash through a colander. Add sugar, butter, and cinnamon or nutmeg. Bake with a top crust. Powdered sugar over when done. 4. Sliced apple pie. Use this way only the best, ripe cooking apples. Pare and core them, and slice them thin across the core. Fill paste-lined pie pans about 2 layers deep. Thinly cover the apple slices with sugar and grate nutmeg over. Put in each pie butter size of a walnut and a large spoonful of water. Bake without a top crust slowly and dry. The apples become transparent and half candied. 53. Pineapple cream pie. 1 quart of pineapple, either grated or chopped and pounded. 12 ounces of sugar. 1 cupful of cream. 12 yolks of eggs. Cook the pineapple's pulp and sugar together a few minutes. Add the cream and the yolks well beaten. Bake in thin crusts. The same ingredients all stirred over the fire till cooked thick. Make a pineapple cream to spread on layer cakes and fill tarts. 54. Cranberries have a better color cooked with the sugar. To a quart of cranberries, allow half a pound of sugar and water to cover the bottom of the vessel only. Cook in their own steam about a half hour. They scorch easily, should not be set in the hottest place. The juice that can be strained from them without mashing makes the brightest jelly when cold. Mash the rest through a colander for pies. Strawberries should be put in crusts raw and sugar strewn over. Canned strawberries should be strained from the juice and that boiled down with sugar to about half, and the fruit returned to it. Peaches use same as apples, also for peach custard pie. The peach kernels stewed with the fruit heighten the flavor. Gooseberries green require 12 ounces of sugar to a pound of fruit. They should be partly mashed with the back of a spoon for better mingling with the sweet. Plums and such large fruits are not serviceable unless cut or broken. A can of currants or whortleberries will make 5 pies, and the same size can of plums only 2 or 3. Quinces can give an improved flavor to apples stewed with them. Quince pies may be made by grating the fruit and mixing with sugar, or by stewing sliced quinces with water and lemon juice, and then adding sugar to make a thin syrup. Best for shell pies. Bartlett pears make good pies. Some other varieties can be used like quinces. Rhubarb should be cooked with only water enough to cover the bottom of the kettle. A half pound of brown sugar to a pound of the stalks spread over the top, and the steam shut in. Raspberries, currants, blackberries, and all such fruit as are apt to become all juice should have the same avoidance of water as rhubarb and be cooked in their own steam. Bananas and plantains made into pies in the South are in the same manner as has been directed for sliced apple pies, with mace and wine or brandy added. Tomatoes can be used in pies if boiled down with sugar. Scald and peel and let them drain of half their juice. To each pint of drained tomatoes, allow 4 ounces of sugar and a little bruised raced ginger. Stew down thick. Figs, either dried or fresh, can be made into pies, cut up and stewed in syrup with a lemon or 2 and some butter. That was like Macready at the Palladium. Ed Forrest, he quit the Palladium to go to the Athenaeum, and Ed had been throwing up some jam-up pumpkin pies, and a lot of the fellows that get up late in the morning after breakfast hours got to coming and saying, "Give me a pumpkin pie and some coffee, and I can wait till dinner." And some of them would eat 2 regular. So, when Ed quit, all the boss could find on the town was Macready. He had to go on the night watch, and there was about 75 pies to make before morning. So Mac, he goes to the night head waiter, and says he, "Fruit's all right, but say, how do you go to work to make a pumpkin pie?" Well, the head waiter, he growls and says he, "Oh, what do you take me for? Who's hired night cook here, you or me?" So Mac goes to work and rolls out his pies and opens the cans of pumpkin and spoons them out into the crusts with no sweetening or nothing and bakes them off. And along in the morning the fellows began to drop in, and one of them gets up on the high stool to the lunch counter and says, "Give me my 2 pumpkin pies and coffee." Well, sir, he took a bite and began to eat, and then he stopped with it in his mouth and studied like, and then he spit it out on the floor, and says he, "What in the Halifax sort of pumpkin pie is that anyhow?" And the business was entirely broken up, and Macready, he got bounced. 55. Chocolate cream pie. Fenchnettes au chocolat. 1 quart of milk, 8 ounces of sugar, 4 ounces of flour, 2 ounces of chocolate grated, 2 ounces of butter, 5 yolks of eggs, 8 whites of eggs, and 4 ounces of sugar for meringue and vanilla to flavor. Boil the milk with the chocolate in it and a little of the sugar to prevent burning on the bottom. Mix the flour and the rest of the sugar thoroughly together dry and beat them into it. Then add the butter and the yolks well beaten and take the mixture immediately from the fire. Bake in thin crusts of puff paste. Whip the whites of the eggs firm while the pies are baking. Add the sugar and the vanilla. Spread over the pies still hot in the oven and bake with the oven door open a few minutes. 56. Lemon cream pie. 1 quart of milk, 6 ounces of sugar, 4 ounces of flour, 1 ounce of butter, 8 yolks of eggs, 1 lemon, juice and rind, or lemon extract, pinch of salt. Make as directed in the preceding receipt without the chocolate. 57. Cream confiture for pies and tarts. 1 pint of cream, 10 eggs, 1 pint of red currant jelly. Warm the jelly just enough to melt it and beat it into the eggs and cream. Bake in thin puff paste crusts. Powdered sugar over when done. 58. Custard pie, ordinary. 8 eggs, 1 quart of milk, 6 or 8 ounces of sugar, nutmeg, lemon or vanilla flavoring. Beat the eggs and sugar together. Add the milk gradually. Flavor, and bake in deep paste-lined pie pans with high edges. The thicker the custard, the better the pie. 59. Harvest pie, vinegar pie, made without eggs or milk. 1 pint of water, half pint of vinegar, 1 pound of brown sugar, 1 ounce of butter, 4 ounces of flour, 1 teaspoonful of ground cinnamon. Boil the water, vinegar, and butter together. Mix the flour, sugar, and cinnamon together dry, and dredge them into the boiling liquid, beating at the same time. Take it off the fire as soon as it partly thickens before it boils. May be baked either with or without a top crust. 60. Butter pie. 1 quart of milk or cream, 8 ounces of fresh butter, 1 pound of white sugar, 4 ounces of flour. Boil the milk with the butter in it. Mix the flour and sugar together dry. Stir them into the boiling milk and take the mixture from the fire as soon as it begins to thicken. Bake like a custard in a crust. 61. Cornstarch custard pie or arrowroot pudding. 1 quart of milk, 2 ounces of starch, 8 ounces of sugar, 2 ounces of butter, 6 eggs, lemon or vanilla flavoring. Mix the starch with a little of the cold milk. Boil the rest of the milk with sugar in it. Stir in the starch, then the butter and eggs, and take it from the fire immediately. Bake in crusts. 62. Cream curd pie. 1 pound of dry cheese curd, product of 4 quarts of milk curdled with rennet. 8 ounces of butter, 12 ounces of sugar, 4 whole eggs and 6 yolks, 1 cupful of milk, 4 ounces of currants, nutmeg, orange, or other flavoring. Mash the curd through a sieve and mix in the other ingredients. Bake in crusts. 63. Potato cream pie. 1 pound of mashed potatoes, 8 ounces of white sugar, 6 ounces of butter, 5 eggs, 1 cupful of mixed milk and brandy or wine. Boil good mealy potatoes and mash them through a sieve. Mix the butter with them while warm, then the sugar, milk, and flavoring. Separate the eggs and beat both yolks and whites quite light and stir them in just before baking. Bake in crusts. Sift powdered sugar over when done. 64. Sweet potato pies. Make by the preceding receipt using sherry wine instead of brandy. They need careful baking of a light color to be good. Powdered sugar over. 2. Slice cooked sweet potatoes into the crusts. Strew sugar over plentifully, and broken blades of mace, and small lumps of butter. In each pie, pour half cupful of wine. Bake slowly. 65. Pumpkin transparent pie. Made without milk or eggs. 2 pounds of pumpkin or 1 quart. 1 pound of sugar. 4 ounces of butter. Flavoring either of lemon rind, cloves, or nutmeg. The pumpkin must be dry, either baked or steamed. Mash it through a strainer. Mix the sugar and butter with it, and let simmer at the side of the range to become thick. Flavor and bake in crusts. 66. Pumpkin pie cheap. 2 pounds of mashed dry pumpkin. 4 ounces of sugar. 2 ounces of butter. 2 eggs. 1 cupful of milk. Little ground cinnamon. 67. Pumpkin pie. 2 pounds of pumpkin stewed dry. 8 ounces of butter. 12 ounces of sugar. 12 eggs. 1 cup milk. Ginger, cinnamon, or nutmeg. Beat the eggs light and stir them in after everything else is mixed. 68. Pumpkin or squash custard. Make a custard of eggs, a quart of milk, and sugar, and mix mashed pumpkin with it to suit. 1 quart of mashed pumpkin is about right. 69. Brown squash pie. 2 pounds of dry mashed squash, a quart. 8 ounces of molasses. 2 ounces of butter. 8 eggs. Ginger and allspice. 1 quart of milk. Mix the butter with the squash while still warm, then the molasses and rest of the ingredients. With the right kind of molasses, or part black molasses and part sugar, and spice skillfully proportioned, this variety proves to be a favorite. 70. Although it is not strictly in the line of a hotel fellow's duty to pass opinions upon manners and ways people have, but considering the many aspersions that are cast upon pie and its friends, maybe not ask one question. It is not more American-like to like pie and say you like pie and make it big and make it good than to beat about the bush and try to hide an inordinate admiration of pie under such names as darioles, bouchées, mirlitons, flans, vol au vents, tortes, tartlets, and a lot more as the French do, and turnovers, puffs, and tarts like the English? You will find, if you look, that Mr. Clive Newcomb in the Newcombs, when a boy at college, was remarkably fond of raspberry tarts, and it took all his pocket money and much that he managed to get from a friend or two besides to purchase them. And there is nothing sardonic in Mr. Thackeray's statement of that not uncommon trait of his. But those raspberry tarts are not to be confused for a moment with the indescribable English household pie. The tarts were and are neither more nor less, except in size, than our American open pies. Could Mr. Clive be blamed for loving them? Why, even American collegians are not above such a weakness as that. Tart, tort, and tart is the European for the American pie, made open, that is without a top crust, or at most with only strips across. The tart proper is not larger than the palm of the hand, and is made in patty pans or small pie pans of any form, oval, oblong, square, or round. People like pie for supper. People like pie for supper, and country hotels with the old style of long tables set them on it, but fashion does not allow it. But you can circumvent fashion, and she will be secretly pleased thereby, by serving tarts, both for luncheon and supper. Now tarts or tiny pies are tedious to make in numbers, and advantage must be taken. Get the shallow patty pans fastened together, a dozen a bunch. Roll out the paste to 1/8 of an inch thickness in large sheets, and cut out flats with biscuit cutters or any oval or any other cutter that will match your patty pans. Press the paste with the thumbs to the shape. Cut off the surplus, even with the edges, and put in a spoonful of any kind of pie fruit, or of the mixtures just preceding, or of the various creams, apple or coconut, cream, etc. And you can give pie for a supper, luncheon, and tea, and fashion will never be the wiser. For some of the pie mixtures, such as the chocolate cream, puff paste is not the best. The annexed is a kind of specially made for small bakings. 71. Tart paste. 1 pound of flour, 6 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of powdered sugar, 2 eggs, little salt, half cupful of water. Rub the butter into the flour, add the eggs and sugar and salt with the water. Mix and knead it smooth. 72. Tartlets, bouchées, and vol au vents. The fine leaf paste or puff paste being ready there is nothing easier to make than a vol au vent tartlet, like those shown below. Roll out the paste to about 1/4 of an inch thickness or even thinner. Cut out with a double cutter. Place the tartlets in pans like biscuits and bake in a brisk oven. They rise to 3 or 4 times the height of the paste they are cut from. Lift out the little lid made by the cutter in the middle, or else push it down, and fill the cavity with a spoonful of red currant jelly or lemon honey or any kind of fruit or preserves. 73. American popular ices. The combinations following are not too dreadfully original in idea to be eminently proper, according to Hoyle. Neither are they copies. They are innocent American variations of the class of European iced puddings and bombes à la viennoise. They are popular ices in the sense that they are among the things which make hotel tables popular with high-priced people. They are among the super excellences and quiet surprises which give. But there we are getting beyond our depth. What we do want to say is that served individually, they can be managed easily enough in the hotels which do not employ a confectioner or men specially detailed to make the ices, but where the pastry cook has to be the man of all work, where the molding in bombs involves a great expenditure of time and freezing material. These have been well tried and often. The simplest and best methods of molding, frothing, freezing, etc. will also be found explained among the commoner ices further on. Catterskill ices. Combination of rose pink cream with pale green ice containing grapes and almonds. 2 freezers required. 74. Rose ice cream. 1 quart of cream, 12 ounces of sugar, 12 eggs, a pinch of salt, coloring and flavoring. Take off 1/3 of the cream, the thickest, from the top, and keep it cold to be whipped to froth while the other is freezing. Boil the rest of the cream with sugar in it, which prevents burning. Beat the eggs light in a bowl, as if for a sponge cake. Pour the boiling cream and sugar to them and cook about a minute together, enough to slightly thicken but not boil. Strain into a freezer immediately, add a few drops of rose extract and some bright red fruit syrup, such as the surplus juice from crimson strawberries and sugar, or else some drops of red coloring to make the cream light pink. Freeze, and when nearly finished, whip the reserved cream to froth and beat it in. When cream thick enough to whip cannot be had, keep out the whites of the eggs and use the same way instead. 75. Grape and almond ice. 5 pints of sweet white muscat grapes, free from stems. 1 pint of angelica or other sweet wine. 1 pint of water. 1 pound of sugar. 1 large ripe lemon. 1 pound of almonds, blanched. Stew 3 pints of the grapes with the water and sugar, and when tender, rub the pulp through a strainer into a freezer, together with the syrup. Add the wine and the lemon, cut in thick, short slices, with the seeds carefully excluded, and freeze them in the mixture. At the last, drop in the blanched almonds, and after a few more turns of the freezer, add the remaining 2 pints of grapes previously made cold on ice. Cover down the freezer that the ice may become well frozen. To serve individually, make a border of the cream with a spoon in broad champagne glasses or fancy ice glasses, and in the middle pile the grape and almond sherbet. For fancy mold creams, line the mold with the first part and fill the centers with the second. 76. A favorite form of balm is frozen in the mold in the shape of a little glass jug with a handle and all complete. This is coated inside with a translucent fruit or flavored syrup ice, and the filling is of, for example, a maraschino ice cream or one dotted with strawberries. When the balm, well frozen, is taken out of its mold and set on the table on its folded napkin, you are, if you please, to knock off the neck of the jug and dip out the contents. It is surmised that it is called a balm because it goes off pretty soon amongst a whole table full of people, but the name does not suit our bills of fare. The ice will go off better when it is not called a balm. Sweet dreams.